My name is Mandy Wilson, and I live outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. But many of you have been asking about my accent. I am from North Alabama. I have a vendor space downstairs with linoleum prints, but I'm going to talk about quilting because I think that that's going to relate much more to you than printmaking. I brought my website because I didn't know we were going to do this, and so I don't have a presentation. But I have cards, and Spiral Bird Studio has mine and my husband's portfolios. It also has About Us, which is mainly about me, which also has my resume, and I just fix it
Yes.
so they can see your lovely.
There you go.
Thank you.
More. Yeah.
But we want to look at quilts. So this quilt behind me here in this photo is my first eco-dyed print piece. It's been in a few shows, and I've really enjoyed that. That's by hand. I definitely want to get into more of that. These are eco-printed on paper, and this is kind of quilts-ish, but it is on paper with twigs. So I'm going to skip some of my books, if that's okay. You can kind of see them as we go in the eco-printing and the jewelry. But if you're interested in this, you are more than welcome to go back. I learned jewelry making at the John C. Campbell Folk School. If you've not heard of the John C. Campbell Folk School, it's in Murphy, North Carolina. And it's an amazing, amazing place. So if you are looking for learning some new technique, screen printing, quilting, weaving, they have large studios. This is one of my wall pieces. This I did in a workshop. Sorry, the pictures are a little big for the space. Some indigo I did, but let's start with Bean. This is my dog Bean, and this is cyanotype. This was an example I did for my high school students. As my high school students are learning quilting, I do a piece with them. So that's how I kind of know how they need to process and how they need to, how long it should take them. But they got to design their own quilts. We did have to have cyanotype in it. That was part of the assignment. But this is all dyed, obviously by me. And I really, really enjoy now. This is kind of going from newest work to oldest work, but I'm really, really enjoying printing and dyeing on fabrics. All of these are printed and dyed, and this is linoleum printing around the edge. These are all separate linoleum blocks. This was for a contest called New Quilts for an Old Favorite, and it's from the American Quilter Society in Paducah, Kentucky, and I have never made a quilt specifically for a contest. But I thought this sounded fun because the theme was Shakespeare. That was really, really hard to come up with a plan. And so this is free motion. It's some raw edge, some needle turn, mostly raw edge, and then free motion quilting. I dyed and printed all the fabrics. The story is Romeo and Juliet, so the title is A Rose by Any Other Name. The fight scene is printed around the piece. So there are two people who die in it. I'm not going to tell you who those are, just assuming if you've never read Romeo and Juliet. It's my only Shakespeare play I've ever read. It was in 9th grade, and I did not understand any of it, but there was a movie. And it had Leonardo DiCaprio in it. And he was just a little bit older than me. So in high school, we watched that over and over and over again. So, here's another piece. This is a little bit more experimentational. I decided I wanted to make a white quilt, and then I made it and I couldn't photograph it. So this was in a workshop and I was just experimenting. So I painted the back with acrylic paint and let it soak through the stitching lines. And that was really fun, and I like the way it turned out. Here's my tree quilt. All of this is done with things in my yard. I did not grow anything. I did not know anything about eco dyeing. I just put it in a pan on my stove and boiled it. And it came out, and there's some hand stitching. This is representing our home and our little house. And then the rock I picked up from the local river and ground it up and did kind of a mud cloth. I mixed it with soy milk and painted it on. The rust is from a rusty thing I picked up at a party. So yes, everything can be art. This is a piece I did in 2011. This is one of the older pieces on here. But this was my first award-winning piece that really made it in shows and really got me started on the fine art trajectory with quilt making. This is the first quilt that I had in the American Quilter Society show in Paducah. It's hand-pieced. It's machine quilted. 1-inch hexagons. It's English paper piecing. It's what my tattoo is. And I really, really enjoyed this. the question's going to come up, where did I learn to quilt? You know, I don't know how many of you went on the G's Bend trip yesterday. I know it was a lot of us. Their story, besides the civil rights component, is a very similar to my family story. They were very, very poor, very isolated, and had nothing. You know, the two-room shack with the holes in the floor, the door doesn't reach the ground. And that was my grandmother and how she grew up. And then my mother was born into that. And I think one of the ladies yesterday said that women had to learn 3 things: to cook, to put up the house, or something like that, and to quilt. I only learned one of those. My husband does all the cooking and cleaning. Because, well, it's not because he enjoys it, it's because I don't. But this I ended up having machine quilted by someone else, which I kind of regret now, but at the time it was important. But my grandmother taught my mother to quilt, and she taught me to quilt, and they're all gone now, so I continue to quilt. And I'm currently studying at the University of Memphis, doing my doctoral studies, studying Appalachian history and quilt making, specifically the community that's supporting that. And so I'm not necessarily into weaving because I just don't know anything about it, but I'm really impressed with everyone here who's helped me with my doctoral research and given me ideas of what I can write about. This was my thesis for my master's degree, which I finished 3 years ago. These are boxes that are wooden, I built, and I put thrifted and scavenged pieces in them that represented the women that taught me to quilt. So this is for my grandmother. This is for my mother. These are feed sacks from the 40s that she had collected. I've inherited all of her feed sacks. I have several hundred. My next piece is going to be mainly feed sacks and their clothing, my parents' clothing, because it's going to go with my doctoral dissertation. So these are 1/4-inch hexagons. It doesn't take much longer to do a 1-inch hexagon than a 1/4-inch hexagon. So these pieces are very, very small. This was for my grandmother. All of these boxes have things in them that represent them, like she grew up not throwing anything away. So I saved every scrap piece of thread and yarn that I kept to put it in a little jar. It has, they all have scissors and thread and buttons, and there's a little farm girl in it. So it represents her. These were her fabrics, and this is a pattern that she would have made. She had a little square that she sat on in her sewing chair that was that pattern, and that's where that came from. This is for me. These are new fabrics. None of these have things that I printed in them. I was trying to use fabrics that really represented those people, not things that I made. But this has, you know, it has drawing ink in it. It has watercolor pigments that I found. It has a film canister. For my undergraduate, it was in darkroom photography. This is my little double wedding ring for my aunt, my great aunt. And these little pieces are tiny. They're all curved. So what I did was I took the smallest one I could find in English paper piecing and made it smaller. I traced all the pieces. I made photocopies of them and shrunk them down, and then transferred that over to cardstock. So it's English paper piecing. So my points match exactly for the most part. And this is also feed sack fabrics. I don't know if any of you have sewn with feed sack fabrics, but the weave is a little bit wider, and it's a lot harder to do small pieces because your seam allowance cannot be as large because the pieces are so small. And so it liked to pull out. So there were several that this is the smallest one. These are 1/4-inch, and you can even see my stitches on there. That's how small these are. But I fussy cut all those little around the star, made the hexagons. So hexagons are something that I'm attracted to. I won my first paper piece, which ended up being this quilt at a quilt guild meeting. It was a door prize. I started doing it. My mother was laying in bed with cancer in the hospital, and I told her I was going to finish it. That was probably one of the worst things I could have said because this thing turned out to be massive. I drew it on isometric graph paper. I was 23. I did not know what I was doing. It just kept getting bigger and bigger because once you start doing stars, you have to finish stars. So this thing is massive, incredibly heavy. It's not the least bit functional. Bought it hung in Paducah and got me a tattoo, so that's something. My very first hexagons that I won the little pattern pieces for that I did in the quilt guild meeting were in this. So I put all my pieces, even the ones I learned on. But we have some tumbling blocks for another aunt. I do dolls. I don't do dolls as much right now because I'm sticking like the bigger ones, but these are fabric. I really, really like puppets and dolls and things that tell stories. I feel like that these little characters all have their own story. This one I called Fellow Traveler, the man. And I was making a shirt for him, and I thought, why does he need a shirt? Yes, 2 more. Okay. So this is some more things. This is an altered porcelain doll that I sculpted on top of. And I mentioned that my undergraduate was film darkroom photography. So I developed my own film. And these are some prints from recently. My dog, my cat, my other cat, my dog, my snail. So if you're interested, I have cards. My husband also, this is his first novel that came out last year. It's a pretty good little book, I think, but I might be biased. But it's gotten some really good reviews on Amazon. These are some of his paintings. He has an MFA from University of Mississippi. And he is very interested right now in, I'm going to describe it wrong. He's a feeler, I'm a thinker. But it's like improvisational, how he's feeling at the moment. He's responding to nature around him. And I really love this. He sells off of Facebook and off of out of a gallery in Nashville. But I really, there's the elephant. I love the elephant. So thank you. If you have any questions, I will be in the vendor space and with linoleum prints if you're interested. Thank you. I don't know in sharing. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. Oh, let's see. Great. Thank you. Kathy. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Kathy McHenry, and I'm happy to be here, always a little nervous. What strikes me so strongly right now are all the opportunities that the young people among us have had. The exposure to ideas, to education, to a world of handcraft and art. And so I have to really soothe myself and say, it's okay, dear. You didn't know at the time. You just didn't know. So I came to it late. I'm happy to be here in it. My educational path was bumpy. At 23 or, probably maybe 22, my father came to California to visit with me. I was living there by then. He said, okay, what are you going to do? And it was a big do. What are you going to do? And I think, as the story goes, I looked around, saw a word, and said, I'm going to major in that. And you can imagine how frivolous that was. We were in a restaurant. I'm going to major in, I think I said philosophy, not knowing squat. I went into science and nutritional sciences and public health and was very diligent at that point. I had dropped out of college twice. I had hitchhiked back across the country. I had, sprained my ankle wearing cowboy boots, jumping down from the trucker's cab. So it was a rocky start, but then I stuck with it and enjoyed the science of nutritional science. Finished degrees and then worked at a large medical center for decades in sciences and then in relationship management with referring physicians. What had happened early that I forgot about was that when I was young, my mother had given me a piece of Guatemalan textile, and she was a homemaker, not encouraged, allowed to work outside the home, but she loved color and texture, and found a piece. I no longer had it, but a couple of years ago, a friend gave me an old skirt that she had bought in the 70s in Guatemala, and it was this this type of textile that was, as I understand it, clearly made for a tourist sale. It wasn't worn. This was made into a skirt, and it has an incredibly lovely texture, and it has a weave that you can see. It's a lovely cocoa brown and a black, and you can see it and feel it. So I was allowed to cut up her skirt. She handed me a big, handful of things that was her collection, and the skirt was the treasure. So I made pillows out of it and was reminded of the piece my mother had given me years and years ago. After decades in sciences, I met, as I may have told the group before, I met a woman that just literally transported me to Guatemala with her energy and her flair and pizzazz and electricity. So Aiko Kobayashi Gray. And I traveled with her, leaping off. I met her, I said yes, and we went several months later. She's a tapestry artist, still living in California, making extraordinary tapestries of color and vitality. So I traveled with her over a period of years, every year, and formed friendships with travelers with whom we gathered, and was exposed to color and texture in a way that I hadn't known in the US. What I remember in growing up was that you never wore pink and orange together. And certainly not with red and yellow. And if you had red hair, or I wasn't a redhead, but if you were freckled and pale complected, you never wore a certain color. You just didn't. And the Peter Pan collar had to be ironed, as did the underwear. So the rules were very, very, I'm starting to say strict. I don't mean that. They were just very well defined. So to spend time in Guatemala where color was flamboyant and it was planned, it was gorgeous, but it was all over, was so exciting to me. And out of that excitement, because I wanted it, I really wanted it, knowing I couldn't just build up stacks and have piles in my bedroom, I started sewing with it. So that's where I landed in a big way. And at that time, I decided I had to retire from my work at the medical center. And so I was out like a shot, hoping no one would discover that my head hadn't been there for a little while, and that I'd go home at lunch and sew or do other things. So now I continue to travel. I take empty duffel bags. I look for textiles that I can do something with and that I can touch and feel. So the question earlier about touching online sales is so far from what I'm interested in. And when I buy something myself, I'm always disappointed. It never works because you didn't get to feel it, or the fragrance of your baskets. We got to be near your table in the room, and the fragrance, not just the touch, but the fragrance. So the things I brought to share with you to talk about what I'm loving doing now. I love both finding textiles that I can do something with. So this is a shawl. I've made similar, this is a shawl from a Coban Corte. And what defines it or differentiates it for me is the texture of it. It has a lovely feel. I sometimes get into trouble when I'm buying in a market because I feel something or I see the colors, and then I get home and I realize, it's not what I saw. So I'm trying to refine and settle down and quiet myself so I can make good choices that I can then make beautiful things out of. So this is an incredible piece that has this beautiful design running along the bottom of the skirt that has in the past in other pieces made tablecloths or shawls. One of our group last year bought what was the end piece, and then it was a shawl. So it had taken on this new entity and is being worn, I think, in Manhattan. The other thing that I love doing is finding someone else's work that I can then build on. So this is an example. I buy embroidered squares from my friend Lydia Lopez's shop in Antigua, and then can make, very nicely fashioned pillows out of it. But my addition to it is pretty slight. So it really is framing it and presenting it And someday I will hope to meet the embroiderer. I understand this young man lives in Santiago Atitlan. So I have a chance of finding him, even if I have to walk the streets and say, do you know who made this embroidery? More recently, and I can't remember, or a friend sort of pointed me in the direction of African textiles. So more recently, I met a lovely man at a flea market in my area who once a month comes to a vintage flea market with stacks of textiles. And honestly, I sort of think anyone who came with stacks of textiles would be my target. You know, in this case, he's a sweet, generous, interesting man, and the textiles are beautiful. So 3 or 4 times, I now have bought a wagon I can drag behind me. So I no longer, as I'm getting older, and the aches are making themselves known, I have to figure out other ways to bring home drag home what I've found. So I've been introduced to really beautiful natural indigo, because the indigo pieces that I work with in Guatemala are synthetic. And I am always interested in the stories of natural dyes, but it doesn't relate to what I do, because I'm working with old textiles that have been woven on a foot loom, worn as a skirt, purchased, worn as a skirt, and then released in a market for others to find and buy. So the idea of holding in my hands natural indigo and trying to understand the process of strip cloth has been a whole new area for me. And I feel a little bit like I've maybe moved to another country a little bit. Have I started a second family? Sort of, it feels a little risky. But so this is a beautiful piece that is indigo strip cloth. And for those of you who know it, I'm a total unknown. I can't even express how new this all is to me. So those of you who are authorities, please forgive me when I make mistakes in describing it. But as I understand it, strip cloth woven on a backstrap loom, sewn together, and then dyed. And the evidence I have of that is if I'm taking the strips apart, and I used to do it so carefully I could save the thread and reuse it, and then realize that was too challenging for me. But in taking the attachment threads out, it leaves a little bit of weight. So you see that it really was dyed after it was attached. And this piece has a texture that you can see the variation in colors, you can feel the weave. It just is lovely. And it's the sort of thing that you would sleep beside. It would make 2 minutes. Okay. And then I brought one other. So this, I am told, is from Burkina Faso. And I only know what I have read in the headlines of newspapers, and I haven't undertaken a better study of what I'm handling. But this also is Burkina Faso and has an incredible tassel to it. So yes, an incredible tassel to it. And that seems magical to me, that there's movement and air as well as this, gorgeous, deep indigo. So in summary, this has kept me, it's kept me occupied, retired, children grown, sort of questioning role in life. What am I doing? This has kept me occupied, kept me nourished, and then continues to move. And so all the discussions about new areas is exciting to me. Could you make quilts with this kind of fabric? Whatever. How can all of what we do come together and be used to create beautiful new things? So thank you very much.
The order, so it's like, okay, whose slide do I pick? Okay, who's next? So just, If they can find our website. Ask, they're negotiating a deal over here.
Sure can.
It's in the chat.
Is it in the chat? Okay, I'll pull it up.
Acadian Brown, www. Yeah,
Touch showing up good?
perfect. That's
All right,
great.
awesome.
We're not gonna go anywhere. We just thought it'd be a nice backdrop. But, oh, I guess we have to be up here. Yeah.
Right in here, they can,
Okay.
oh, whoops.
What happened?
Can they see them on Zoom or did we hide the picture? I'm sorry, we may have put in the picture. Sorry,
It's
just a
okay,
second.
it's
Work our
okay.
magic. Let me change something.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oops.
Well, yeah, but I do want everyone to see what. Anyway, we're gonna start, and I'm Sharon, and I'm here representing Acadian Brown Cotton, also the Acadiana Fiber Shed. And Rebecca Baker is here with me today, and we are just delighted to be here as always and find work inspiring and generates new ideas for us, and all of you contribute to that, so thank you. I just want to, it's very hard for me to condense this story because I find all the backstory so interesting and how I met this person, and then that led to the next step and who inspired me here. So it's difficult, bear with me. I know Maren is timing us, but deep breath. Okay, so I went to Louisiana for a lot of reasons, which are, well, it's another one of those great backstories that you'll have to find out personally over lunch or something. But anyway, I discovered that there was such a thing as a weaving tradition in South Louisiana, and that there was also a cotton that was a native brown cotton. I found this so fascinating. I had already done I'd done several documentary films, but one about a Creole gentleman who moved from South Louisiana to Los Angeles. And I met him, and that spurred on my interest in Louisiana and all that it has to offer, which for me was multifaceted. It just was an amazing adventure for me. And this all started in my mid-60s. So for those of you who are approaching that, don't think life is over. It is not. So I produced these two films in my late 60s, developed this project in my 70s, and I'm now approaching 80. And it's a toss-up. I'm not sure where we're going to go now, but it's great. So thank you. Life is not over for you youngsters. So I produced this film with the help of my friend Suzanne Bro, who is a Cajun, and made introductions to a lot of the folks that remembered their grandmas and their great grandmas and even their mothers who were weaving at the time they were growing up and growing this incredible, not native to Louisiana, but heirloom seed, which was just about extinct. So we have these for sale in our booth downstairs, or next door rather. And it just seemed that the community was really, they were at that moment in time where they were ready to throw their enthusiasm and energy behind the revitalization of this cotton. And so all of a sudden, all the dowry blankets kept coming out, and everyone wanted us to identify them and date them if we could. So there was all of this amazing energy around this revitalization. We did manage to bank in the local seed bank attached to the university over 400 pounds of seed. So that instantly saved the seed. There were only 2 women who continued to have it and were growing and keeping it alive. So we knew it was time to start seed banking. And for us, the way this project has gone, when the need appeared, so did the teacher or the benefactor or whomever. It's been blessed all the way along. So the university was opening a seed bank. They'd received a $1.7 million grant, and they were seed banking the native plants of Louisiana. And even though our seed is not native, they said, no, come on, we'll grow it. They have 600 acres. We'll grow it in the back field, and we have refrigerator compartments, we have dryers, they have everything. So again, just one of those amazing synchronistic events. We then, well, I want to tell you who inspired me to really pick this up and run with it, and that's a pioneer, a designer named Bill McDonald. And what I took away from him was this: in today's world, we must design for all children of all species and for all time. Well, our brown cotton is exactly that. If you create clothing or whatever you're doing with it, blankets, whatever, it will biodegrade. It will not be here. It will not be polluting our oceans and our rivers and hanging around to, like our polyesters in Chile that caused a major fire because they just spontaneously combusted and sent toxic fumes all over northern Chile. Brown cotton was it for me. I thought that I can really get behind this, knowing this is the case. Then we became aware of FiberShed, and we immediately joined as soon as we did. That makes us the Acadiana FiberShed affiliate, and their major goal at the time was regional fiber manufacturing industries. So Rebecca Burgess, who some of you may know or have heard of, established her own challenge, which was to create a garment within a 200-mile radius of her home in Northern California, which she did. I didn't know this. I live in Southern California most of the year, and I had no idea there were so many sheep farmers up there. Well, there are, and they're college-educated shearers and mostly women, and it was amazing. So I really educated myself by becoming a member of the FiberShed and creating this affiliate in South Louisiana. At the time, we were the only affiliate in the Deep South. So our project was simply in line so much with the goals and the values of FiberShed. So we were a natural. Again, the universe was aligning for us. They also were very much involved in anything that was climate smart, which I mentioned yesterday in my thank you to WARP. Is now not acceptable, but I think all of us in this room agree that it's essential. And that was one of Rebecca's main goals, that we should be climate smart. And this regional fiber industry is just that. They also then developed with the University of Colorado a program in regenerative agriculture, which again, we were asking our farmers Longview. Oh, she's giving me 2-minute time. Well, I'll take a little bit of Rebecca's time.
I'm giving Rebecca 5 minutes too. So.
Yeah, so we have a little bit more. I can spill over. I told you, I warned you. Regenerative agriculture, which we were already asking our farmers to grow responsibly. Organic certification in Louisiana is almost impossible. That's another great side story if you want to hear more about. But then we met Jordan at one of the affiliate meetings. We met Jordan Masters, who's a professor at the West Virginia University, and he was developing open source from ELO, if you know them in Berlin, small batch milling. So we immediately connected with him, and again, I want to shout out to WARP, who very generously supported us, and we are in the process of buying that small batch machinery. So that's been great. I wanted to show you more of our products. Suzanne, who was the one who helped me with the production of this DVD, the story, basically the history, is a weaver. She studied weaving in Mexico, and when we started revitalizing and creating our first yarn, she pulled out a loom, and I think she has about 6, but she's doing a remarkable job of really preserving the, oh, you have to come over here. Yeah, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so these are her shawls. We have these downstairs. I think only 3 of them, different designs. And then this is a pillowcase, and again, using our Acadian brown cotton and a little bit of indigo dyed. I think this is from Lunatic Fringe, so she does use all organic materials. And let's see, next on was oh, right, so we are big believers in partnering. That's how we've gotten as far as we've gotten, is partnering with really brilliant people all within our Fibershed area. And one of those was Material Institute, and they are located in New Orleans, and they have a school and a curriculum designed to help the residents of the 9th Ward in design, in music, and botanical dyeing. So Ilse Woolbank took one of our $240 1-pound cones of spun cotton and ate 2, and she created these incredible knitting samples done on a silver reed knitting machine. We had no idea our yarn was going to work so beautifully, and she was thrilled. So we had already partnered with them, but they want to carry this through, and they have the okay from their board to develop a whole line and a fashion show, and we were thrilled. So we were waiting, and I think we were supposed to receive in March the yarn. I know. Okay. Look, well, we just have just a couple more, and then I'll turn it over. All of our yarn, but they messed it up. And if you want to see samples of how they messed it up, and if you have any constructive suggestions as to how we might salvage this, please see me at the booth. It's there. The samples are there also. What we did was expanded our Fibershed. So we now included the entire state of Louisiana, which is a 200-mile radius from Lafayette. I am going to tell you, I did a reverse there. I want to introduce another partner of ours from Southern University that I spoke about yesterday, Sammy Kennedy Benson. Will you please stand up and shout out? She is the chairman of the department at textile department at Southern University, and she is the professor who wrote the grant that was canceled by our current administration. She has remarkable students. She runs an incredible program, and we were chosen as one of the 3 fibers that she will research and do analysis on for feminine hygiene products. So talk to her. She's here all day. She's doing a remarkable job in the face of you know what. So anyway, by increasing the size of our Fibershed, we brought on Rebecca Baker, and she is a botanical dyer, a grower. She grows plants to repopulate the coast of Louisiana and Mississippi that, as you know, is disappearing, a football field a week, I think it is. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about the products that she's doing, and that by increasing our Fibershed, we now have more weavers, more growers, and turning it over to Rebecca.
Hello, everyone. As a first-time attendee to this WARP gathering, I am in total awe of everybody that I've been honored to meet over this past week. I'm just wowed. I guess my passion for textiles came from traveling all over Mexico with my parents as a child and through my teenage years. My parents were textile collectors, and so through those relationships that they formed throughout our travels, these artisans would invite us into their homes. And I think I was about 6 years old whenever I learned about natural dyeing, visiting their homes. There was looms in every room of the house. And, that's where we learned about all of the plants, the cochineal that they utilized in their work. And my dad and I always joke, it's like fast forward 40 years later, and now you're growing indigo and working in this medium. My passion is in the seed. I'm a seed keeper and an earth steward. And what that means for me is to honor the earth every step of the way. Pardon me, I'm getting a little emotional.
Deep breaths.
So honoring the seed, the start of my growing always starts with a seed blessing. So every garment that I dye is grown with love. I moved back. I grew up in South Louisiana, and I moved to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and 3 years ago. I connected with Madame Magar. She is a master indigo artist out of South Carolina, and she was the one who shipped me my first indigo seeds that I planted on my current sanctuary in Long Beach, Mississippi. I brought a little container of my very first indigo harvest, and these are the first indigo chips. And I just, always keep them with me. It's just something that I lost my mother that same year, and she was so excited about, me moving on with the botanical dyeing and expanding my passion of growing into bringing the spectrum of the rainbow into my artwork. So this is a little shout out to my mother, because I told her, I'm going to fly you in for the first indigo harvest. I'm wearing her rebozo from Oaxaca that I cherish. So she's always with me and guiding me. One of the things that I love so much about natural dyeing is I help people extend the life of the garments that are already hanging in their closet. My vision was to create a community dye house, to have individuals come and tour the garden spaces to learn about, the growing process, how to harvest, and being able to, extend the life of a garment instead of just tossing it. I'm a longtime picker. I did a lot of antique markets and vintage markets all over Texas when I lived in Austin. So one of my joys is, going out, finding garments and flipping them with the botanical dye. So this is a vintage Violetta, and it was, I'm always picking the silks and the linens and, anything light or off-white, and even over dyeing already established colors. But this is just an example of, really having something and being able to give it another life. And this is chlorophyllin, and it's derived from the mulberry leaf. So I always like to have products that are multifunctional, multi-use. These are flour sack kitchen towels. This is one of my indigo dyed pieces, but you could wear them as scarves, and you can use them as wall hangings. You utilize them in kitchens. One thing that we're really excited about is our brand new website. We have QR codes, and we have these beautiful infographic brochures with a QR code if you would visit our website and sign up for our newsletter. Thank you so much for your time.
One of our farmers, and she has a family of 4, and she's okay. See it in our booth. Just come to our booth. You'll see it.
Okay, next. I get 10 minutes max, so I'm going to try to talk fast. I fell into working with textiles in Central Asia, the Silk Road, in October of 2014. In my living room, we were hosting the farewell party for a delegation of young professionals from Tajikistan who had been visiting Albuquerque for a week. I had been volunteering for the last couple of years after retiring from a career as a corporate attorney. I was volunteering with a local organization that hosts short-term professional exchange delegations from around the world. And I had learned during that delegation's visit that there was no one in the US working to build a market for handicrafts from Tajikistan. I learned that most people were like me and didn't even know exactly where Tajikistan was on the map. We took the delegation up to Santa Fe to meet with the staff of the International Folk Art Market and learned that there'd never been an artist from Tajikistan at the market. So we're eating our fried chicken, and the tradition is everybody stands up and gives a little farewell speech. And I heard myself say, well, I'll do it. Open the market to Tajik handicrafts, thinking, how hard can it be? Thank God I didn't know what I didn't know. But by that time, I had previously met Cale Chappell of Baskets of Africa, who lives in Albuquerque, because I had escorted a delegation of women entrepreneurs in the handicraft sector while they were visiting Albuquerque. And I found Baskets of Africa and said, oh, this makes sense. And I learned about fair trade. And that's how I got started. I knew nothing about Central Asia. I knew a tiny bit about textiles. I knew nothing about fashion, color, weaving, all kinds of things. One of the first artists that I started working with was Munira Akilova, who is a Suzani embroidery artist from Tajikistan. She's based in the northern city of Hujan. She learned embroidery the first time in her home ec class in school. She works with the village ladies that are scattered among 8 different villages. She does the design work, builds kits, and then ships the kits to her ladies who do piecework. On my website, there's a little video where she goes through each element of the design to discuss the symbolism, the square, the running water pattern, the cultural symbolism of pomegranates. And I learned from Munira a lot about the struggle of cultural heritage preservation in this part of the world, because the 3 countries I work with, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, were 3 of former Soviet republics. They gained their independence in 1991. Prior to independence, Moscow had done their very best to destroy the cultural heritage. In the 80s, there were over 70 ikat weaving masters in Uzbekistan who were sent to prison for weaving on their traditional looms. They had been ordered to destroy their looms because they needed to work at the factories. And they were sent to prison for 5 years. Munira's grandparents were sent to work in the salt mines for practicing as artisans. She herself was the first person to explore the villages in the Zarafshan Valley portion of Tajikistan, which is one of the latest UNESCO World Heritage sites. It's the corridor along the entire river valley that reaches from Tajikistan all the way into Turkmenistan. And she went into the villages and researched talked to the grandmas and had them pull out their dowry items and learn about the patterns and the history. And she was part of the team that compiled the first official catalog of ornaments and patterns from this region. So cultural heritage preservation is woven throughout the artisan groups I work with, and much of it is rediscovery. Zelly talked this morning about impact. And I interviewed Munira the last time she stayed at my home. And I said, I wanted to do a little video. Munira, what was the biggest impact? What has it been for you of working with me over these last years? And I fully expected her to say something associated with the economic impact, because the ladies she worked with live in small villages, and typically this is their only cash income. And she said nothing whatsoever about money. What she said was the biggest impact for her was my support for her mission of cultural heritage preservation, which gave her the courage to keep going on her unique pathway. And as I work with my artisans, it's that cultural heritage preservation that is so critical to what they do. Really quickly, I'll show some of the items. This is one of my favorite pieces because it represents both Munira as a designer and her team in, where's the camera? You're right on. Her sewing team in Tajikistan, but she was with me in Uzbekistan at the purchasing the fabric from my ikat weaving team in Margilan, Uzbekistan. So we sat and looked through stacks and stacks of patterns. It's like, yes, this one, not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one might work. We need contrasting patterns. And she helped me calculate the amount of fabric. So this represents 2 countries and 2 artisan groups. It is a traditional long chappan style, but with short sleeves. That's Munira's special technique. Ikat fabrics are typically, the fabric ranges from 14 to 17 inches wide. It's dyed in lengths of 250 meters, and it takes 30 days or more to produce from the silk thread to the finished fabric. Here's a short, very traditional color pattern of ikat weaving, silk ikat weaving. We often laugh and say there's not, Central Asia is one of those regions where there's no such thing as colors that don't go together or too many colors. So I sell a combination of traditional patterns and simplified color palettes for the international market. This one, I think this one was produced specifically for IFAM because we love turquoise and teal and continues to be one of the top sellers. Aziz is the ikat weaver that I've been working with from the beginning. He used to, those of you who've traveled to Uzbekistan may have heard or met Rasuljan. They used to work together. They separated after my first order was placed. My theory is that Rasuljan's son got big enough that he needed to join the company and there wasn't room for 2. And Aziz has concentrated on the international market, and his specialty is dyeing. And he's become a regional expert on eco dyeing and is doing some really innovative stuff there. Quickly moving on to Kyrgyzstan and Seven Sisters, we have felted silks that are hand-woven silk from Uzbekistan. The felting is done in Kyrgyzstan. The same group also does eco-dyed scarves on silk. And real quickly, we also have a few samples of the Uzbek style of embroidery, which is done with a tambour hook, as opposed to Munira's work, which is done with needle and thread. Did I make it? You made it. Where's your break? I'm sorry. Oh, she's up here. Okay, there you go. I'm ready.
I'm just looking for my website to use it like background. Learning here things. Okay, hi everybody. I'm so happy to be here as I had the chance to work and to share with a lot of you. My name is Susan and I'm from Guatemala. I'm really proud of my roots and really proud of being representing today Friendship Bridge. We are an organization that support women. Maybe some of you know, we are a microfinance organization that works primarily with the opportunity for women that they can really get a loan in different banks and other opportunities to have for the first time their money to take their own decisions and to live their life in the way that they want. And my work in Friendship Bridge is to work specifically with weavers and artisans around Guatemala. And I really feel so honored because I've been learning a lot from the women I represent today. And I know after my visit to the United States, I will meet with them and I will share the appreciation of the things they made that some of you that visit our booth already shared with me. And I, of course, am inviting you to be in the booth and to see the things. And sometimes it's not about selling. I think sometimes it's about all the love that you share with us about the products they make. So I can translate into Spanish and share with them the love. And what I want to share with you today is that we have been working a lot in cultural preservation too. And as program, we really care about our sourcing and make them work with their talent. And we have been working in two projects. The first one is this Master Weavers collection. We have worked with more than 13 weavers around Guatemala making repeals and presenting, and we have kind of like a floating exhibition that we present in different spaces, cultural centers, and coffee shops to share Guatemala with everybody that it's out there and wanted to see some of the textiles and the culture. And with this work, this drives us to the knowledge to understand, okay, this is the repeals. We make kind of like an inventory of knowledge. We sit with grandmas to see, oh, this is old textiles. This is new design of this side of the country. And then we question, like, as organization, we serve women. We have more than 35,000 women serving right now in Guatemala. But we also have a big team. We have 300 people working with Friendship Bridge right now. And we were like, we need to share this cultural heritage with them. We really want to honor. And we came with the idea to make an institutional garment piece for them to feel connected to the culture. Even Guatemala, and each place has their own repeal and they wear it proudly, but we wanted to translate our values as organization and the connection with Guatemala heritage. So we came and designed the blouse I'm wearing today. We designed it with a lot of love, with the colors of our organization, and with the meaning in it, so every person in the organization will feel connected and will feel happy to be and embrace with the mission, because I really resonates with me what I hear here about the progress and building, and it's I think it is important to be in a work that resonates in your life and you really feel that you're making a change and you really feel that you're helping one person and then the chain goes and we can be together working with women. So I want to explain here. So we have a core of, have here the information, so I'm not losing anything. So we established a partnership with Intecap, that is the best training organization in Guatemala. They never thought to have for artisans a special program. So we create a special small training program that they are now offering for all Guatemala. Like they are like opening small training like a class with the needs that an artisan need have. So we were so happy about that partnership because they have like a full class of a year, but they now have a condensed program that they can offer. As you know, in Guatemala, all we pills are like no, they don't have sizing. They have like open here, so everybody can like sew in your own body shape and your own style. So we were like, this is for an organization, for us, so we need to make sizing. So we made like small, medium, and large. For the artisan, that was a big step because they were like, why we need sizing? We just leave it open and they can sew it at home. So big challenges on also understanding how we can do something that preserves a lot of culture, but also go and transform into market opportunities for them because now they have the knowledge about how to make the sizing, how to make the pattern, and that's the way we know we are also growing with them. So to finish, I will say like the representation of the embroidery. So the three first loops you can see here, they represent the three dimensions of our organization. That is resilience, empowerment, and business development. So these first three loops mean that. Then we have this other kind of like blue shape, and also the connection with nature that some of you were like, oh, you have the volcanoes there, yes. Also the volcanoes. But the shape, the journey we walk with our clients around, like, because some of them begins with a small lawn, just wanted to go up, take care of their family, and then they begin to be a businesswoman. So they have like a big journey, and we work with them during that journey. And the other like green parts here, they represent the community, how we help each other, because we work a lot with like helping each other. And lastly, this other detail represents the lake, because we work a lot with women around the Atitlán Lake that some of you visit. So now we have a piece that represents a lot the organization or heart or mission, connects each other. And I really feel proud seeing the artisans, the weavers, like feeling so proud and seeing the pictures of Friendship Bridge, like colleagues presenting Friendship Bridge in different scenarios, wearing the blouse. And they told me like, oh, this is amazing to see my hands, and then seeing the proud of the mission that represents. So I invite you all to visit our booth. Maybe if you wanna bring something home, we have small little presents for family and friends. And thank you so much for your support and for supporting Guatemalan women. I really appreciate, no matter if it's with the fabric, with the labor, but I really feel empowered to know that we have these such a great supporters for Guatemalan women. Thank you so much.
all of you sit with me today. Mostly, we import handcrafted, beautiful products, but occasionally dogs. Just kidding.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, this is really such a wonderful group. This is my first time at a WARP gathering. My name is Madeline Kreider Carlson. I am the executive director of My Enhance, which is an organization that I think has really grown up inside with the WARP community and very much interwoven with WARP as a community over the course of its existence. So it's kind of humbling and amazing to be standing up here and presenting to all of you in this room where I know so many people have contributed to the trajectory of our organization as a nonprofit over its 35 years of existence. So I want to share just a little bit of where we are at today. My Enhance is a nonprofit organization. We were founded, again, about 35 years ago. We don't have a very clear start date, but our origin was in Guatemala with our founder, Brenda Rosenbaum. She's a Guatemalan anthropologist, and I think that's an important part of our story and our foundation because her academic training and her personal interest was really grounded in a holistic understanding of Maya women, their economic participation in their communities, their role in their families, the craft heritage that they sustain. And I think that respect, that reverence, and also that curiosity about the realities of Maya women has really created the foundation of what our organization has become over many years. So today we have a nonprofit in the US based, we're a 501c3. Our warehouse is in Albany, New York, and some of you have visited there, I think. And then we have an organization in Guatemala, also registered both as an exporting organization and a nonprofit. And we have 7 amazing, highly dedicated staff people who work in Guatemala and really make our operation function. And then the heart of the work that we do is 168 women artisans, organized in 18 different groups. And these are the artisans who create the products that we sell. People ask me sometimes when they see our product collection, wait, do you work, how many countries do you work in? Like, where are you bringing things in from? And that's because, as many of you know, and as we've seen with Friendship Bridge, their work as well, Guatemala has this staggering diversity of not just textile traditions and techniques, but also an extraordinarily talented base. And I would say, like, there's having worked in different artisan contexts, I think that Maya women specifically grow up in a context kind of like where we visited Cheese Bend, where there is a kind of they're born into families where the expectation is that they will become proficient and expert in craft techniques. And what we've seen is that extends beyond the weavings that they might start with. So the backstrap weavings that are really the signals of identity that form the basis of huipiles, and that connection to heritage and community, but also into other craft techniques and other opportunities to grow. So I'm going to show a couple of products that I think are like examples of parts of that trajectory. So we started as an organization working with weavers, and one of the first communities that we worked with. Also, I just have to say, WARP is so fantastic because I get so many interesting questions over the course of these few days together. One of the questions I got standing at the vendor table was from Manasi, right? Yes. About our organization's connection with the genocide and armed conflict in Guatemala, and how is My Enhance, how is our history connected with that history, given that we were born as an organization 35 years ago, in many places at the height of persecution of Mayan people. So the first products I'm going to show you are these tapestry woven coasters from Santiago Atitlan. So Santiago Atitlan, you've already seen a few products that come from that community. Kathy's amazingly embroidered pillow, for example. And Santiago also specializes in a very intricate and amazing form of brocade weaving on a backstrap loom. But this tapestry weaving is something distinct. And this tapestry weaving is something that was introduced, and there were trainings led by the Catholic Church in Santiago Atitlan, which had become a safe place for Indigenous people who were being actively targeted. And many people were disappeared and murdered in that community simply for the fact of that the military was associating Tzutzil Maya identity with the guerrillas, unjustly so. So that Catholic parish, which had these solidarity-based connections with churches and organizations and people in the United States and internationally, was interested in helping to support, especially women who had been widowed or otherwise displaced or had lost their sources of financial support during this time of deep injustice and violence perpetrated against the Tzutzil Maya people of Santiago Atitlan. So this loom was brought in to a population of people who already were very well versed in textile production. This is it's a foot loom. It has several, I think 4 petals. And the first products that were made with this loom were clerical stoles. And those were distributed through this network of solidarity sales and operations to the US and other places in order to not just create sources of income, but also create awareness and understanding around what was happening in Guatemala and a sense of connection to a political movement that could support Indigenous people who were being persecuted and targeted at that time. So we continue to work with women who learned, actually, in our current group in Santiago, we're working with the daughters. The leaders of the group are the daughters of the original women who were part of a community organized group of many widows and other women who experienced violence and were organizing on their own to find sources of support. And that's a very interesting community because we're actually seeing that group dwindle in size as the women who are the leaders of that group, first, they've been able to access, to support the education of their daughters. So just this year, we celebrated the graduation of the first young woman who started with the Mayan Hand Scholarship. We offer scholarships to the daughters of weavers. She started with the Mayan Hand Scholarship as an elementary school in 6th grade, elementary school student, and she just graduated from university with her degree in social work and got a job at this amazing school in the area that teaches specifically for Maya girls and with instruction in Mayan languages. So there's a generational shift that we've witnessed over those 35 years where we started with weavers, many of them widows, in this moment of violence and a need for very urgent solidarity efforts. That work has been carried on by the daughters of those women who have innovated in designs. They have expanded their product offerings, and they've also worked really hard to ensure that their daughters are getting other opportunities as well. And what we're seeing, interestingly, and I think that we're not alone in this, is that there is a shift where that next generation, they have learned how to weave and they know how to bead, they know a number of other techniques, and some of them have done that work concurrently with their studies to be able to both support themselves and also because they feel that sense of connection and love. But I'm not sure what the future of that group is going to be in terms of seeing weaving as a path for their own thriving. I think it's shifting, and we now have these young professional women who have been able to chase their dreams, and they're moving away from artisan craft as the vehicle for doing so. Okay, 2 more. So like I said, we've worked with some of these groups for a long time. So as you know, I think many of you have seen amazing Guatemalan weavings. This basket is something that is not a traditional Guatemalan craft, but it is a very Guatemalan product. This is made from pine needles. Montezuma pines are native to Guatemala, and they are the best type of pines to make pine needle baskets. So this is a technique that we introduced a few years ago because one of the pillars of Mayan Hands is a long-term commitment to developing these relationships with the groups we work with. So we had a few different groups that the number of orders they were receiving for their work had kind of flagged, it was dropping off. And our commitment was to be able to continue providing that fair and stable income source for these women. So One of those was embroiderers and another were weavers, and they started learning this technique of foil basketry and stitching with pine needles. And they have absolutely taken that and run with it. This basket was designed by El Triunfo, which is one of the groups in Sonora. It is an extremely unique basket. It doesn't look like other pine needle baskets you find. I'm at the end of my time. Come talk to me in the vendor marketplace. It has just been such a pleasure to meet so many of you during this this gathering. And thank you all for the way that you have supported Mine Hands through its growth as an organization.
Well, so I'm gonna take 3 minutes. Come see me if you want to know more. I'm just gonna do a really quick intro. See,
Wait, you should
go on
camera though.
Huh?
You're going to.
I'm going to, I'm just trying to get my body over in this general direction. So I am Maren Beck. I have been traveling to Laos and Vietnam for the last 20 years, have friends of 18 to 20 years in length who make all of the textiles and textile items that I represent in the booth. My thing is color. Imagine walking into a very small village. The whole world is green. We're in the middle of a forest area. Green and brown is all you have. You walk into the village and this is under the house and somebody's weaving it. Blue are socks. I'm goosebumpping as I'm talking. So these are traditional textiles from the Lao Thai people who have been weaving them for 1,000 years in this particular region. And the amazing thing is everything is naturally dyed. These colors are all natural dyes. They're just, I've made all of these except the purple. I've made all of myself, so I've seen it happen. I know it's real. And it's all made with hand-reeled silk that's raised in the village. So these are fabulous things. They're traditional textiles. I was going to tell you all about the different types, but you'll have to come and talk to me. I also work with Hmong and Dao people in Northwest Vietnam. And one of my friends there makes these wonderful pillows from used Hmong clothing and also with new hemp. So it's all village raised, hand spun, hand reeled. I mean, hand spun, not hand reeled, indigo dyed hemp. And she repurposes these from old clothes. This young woman never went to school, not even elementary school, because she needed to help her family with the younger kids. This is her design. You know, with no education whatsoever, she is a brilliant human being in terms of designing things. And in the last 2 years, I have broken my original vow to never try to influence any of the art that I purchase. I never order. I never ask anybody to make anything for me in certain colors, but they're smart women. They see what I buy. They make things that my market will serve. But recently I've been getting some small pieces of silk in Laos, and I can't really find a purpose for them. So I took them with me to my Hmong friends in Vietnam, and look what's made for this pillow, this silk inset. So I'm starting to blend these two cultures with each of their specialties to create neat things, and they're all thrilled with the opportunities. So it's been a difficult thing for me to figure out how to do. Two last things. One, if you have not seen our book on the Lao textiles, you're welcome to come by and take a peek. If anybody wants to buy it, I'd be thrilled. I don't have to haul it home then. And the other thing is I do lead textile tours. They're workshop tours, hands-on. You will be doing batik. You'll be weaving. Raleigh came with me last year. Ask her about it. So it's fun. You'll work your ass off, as she said. So it's really fun. You will be working with the artisans who made this. You'll be doing natural dyeing with these dyers. So it's really, really fun. This Nick 2026 is full, 2027 is half full. Get your name in line. And the last thing is I'm in the process of starting to write another book on the pattern template that is used to create these textiles. And nobody's written that book yet. So I'm really excited I get to do something new. So that's it. Come see me. Thank you so much.